take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say Hotep, Habaragani to my Africana Studies colleagues, contemporaries, and seekers after the truth all. And let me go on to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because since my wife Carrie died in 2012, I hate goodbye. I find them traumatizing. But you must bear with an old man with his faith. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles. And we're located at 8916 South Main Street here in the city of Los Angeles. And we're being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, of whom my good friend, the Reverend Dr. Della F. Hollins, is the proud pastor. And when you're over in the area, in the neighborhood, and the Spirit guides you, come on in. We'll be glad to see you. It's always good to see another face in the place. All right? Thank God for you. And let us continue to thank God for His mercy and His goodness, and for His looking out for you and for me, even when we are not aware of how good God is. All right? All right. This is a social justice broadcast. I wanted to say podcast, but we haven't got there yet. Podcasting. This episode is a social justice episode, and we are not so much on the preachy side, although I continue to affirm and give respect and honor to those who have preceded me, especially my teachers who taught me that preaching is the public declaration of divine truth to a public audience with a view to persuade. And as Paul said in Romans, how shall they hear without a preacher, and how shall he preach except he be sent? Okay, so don't get it twisted. I'm still a firm believer in the gospel story. All right? All right. That said, let us look at the 10th chapter of Isaiah. And this is what Isaiah says in the first verse: Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, in other words, bills or laws, that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. All right, that's the first two verses. Put you on notice right there. Legislators are supposed to do their work. They're not supposed to abdicate to the President of the United States. They're really not supposed to abdicate their responsibility, because that was what they ran on. They said, let me represent you and I will go up there and fight for you. And now when you see them, they're sitting on their hands, especially Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, and they allow Mr. Trump to do anything that he wants to do, and they don't challenge him. They don't come on the floor with counter bills or block his bills from becoming law. No, if he signs an executive order, they're on board. And I think that is an abdication of their responsibilities as legislators. If I'm going to send you up there to represent me, why are you sitting on your hands? Represent me, because that's why you're up there. Do your job, is what the people say. Also, in Luke chapter 12, the last clause of the first verse, is an interesting comment made by Jesus. He says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And please believe me, we are in the age of hypocrisy. Dress it up how you will, call it cognitive dissonance. It is still the same stinking pile of hypocrisy. People say they have merit, but they don't act with merit. And when you let two F-18s fall off a ship, that ain't merit. Somebody needs to be fired, and not Tim Walz. It needs to be Mr. Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. That should be his head, and not some underling's head. Again, that's an example of how hypocritical these politicians of this administration is, which is what I really want to say. And our marching orders, Ephesians the 6th chapter, picking up the reading at the 11th verse, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The word of God for the people of God. And so, my friends, you see the predicament that we as a nation are in. There's so much to cover. I don't have time to cover it all, but I was so saddened and dismayed and disappointed to see that the jury found the three police officers who beat and assaulted and battered Mr. Tyree Nichols to death have been declared not guilty. I believe this is a blow to the whole justice system, and we cannot take heart in that, because that was somebody's son, that was somebody's grandson. His life mattered, Mr. Tyree Nichols, and unjustifiably his life was taken from him by the people who were charged to keep him safe. Even after the beating, they wouldn't call the EMTs, and they wouldn't render first aid so that they might have saved his life. They pushed him up there against the car, and eventually the EMTs came, and the EMTs were very begrudgingly helping him, assisting him. So it was they were fraternizing, and as a result, this young man, Mr. Tyree Nichols, died after the beating that he suffered from a what? Traffic stop, an infraction. But it cost him his life because of the overzealousness of the Memphis Police Department officers, all of which were black, which means all skin folk and kinfolk. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Just because you look like me don't mean you like me. And we have to speak out against these injustices. Injustice anywhere is injustice to all of us. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, paraphrasing the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But that is a tragedy, a miscarriage of justice, and it was an all-white jury that found that all-black policeman innocent of killing another black man. All right, now go back to Burkina Faso. But before I go there, I had to refresh my mind over the fact that some years ago here in the United States, and even continuing right to this hour, the U.S. federal government was funding the Contras who were battling the Sandinistas in Nicaragua by selling crack cocaine in South Central Los Angeles. And I had to go back and review the testimony that was given during the hearings. And Mr. John Deutsch, who was the CIA director at that time. Don't forget that George Bush had also been CIA director before he became vice president and ultimately became president. Like I say, once a CIA officer, always a CIA officer. No such thing as an ex-CIA man. Once you're in there, you're always in there. Point being that Congress had stopped the funding for the Contra War. But Ronald Reagan, through Oliver North and his associates, did a workaround, and they began to work with Mr. Blandon, and they had what you call Air America, which they had used in Laos, but then they shifted Air America over to Latin America, and it worked equally as well. They were flying dope in, flying weapons in, flying dope out, flying money in and flying dope out. Either way, the U.S. was complicit in the drug war. There's never been no drug war. It's been a war to sell drugs, yes, but not a war to prevent the sale of drugs. But I said all of that because even now we can see that the hypocrisy, the cognitive dissonance of our government is continuing. And you can look at the YouTube videos. They got the entire hearings. They got the hearings with Maxine Waters, and they got the hearings with Juanita Millender McDonough, who's deceased now. But and then they got Gary Webb, and when he was working for the San Jose Mercury News, and he broke that story, and he did the research, and he got the facts, and he put the facts on the table. And in place of the New York Times and the LA Times and those other big papers lauding him and complimenting him, no, they turned on him for exposing this abuse of justice, if I may use the term. And I met him a couple of times there over in Leimert Park when we were having town halls on Saturdays, and I was able to shake his hand. But ultimately, they turned on him so bad. His own paper, which at first stood behind him, removed their backing and turned against him and fired him. And he couldn't find work at any other newspaper. That's how they do, you know, when you expose their evil. And ultimately, he committed suicide because it just broke his heart that his own journalistic people turned on him. And come to find out way after a while that the CIA Inspector General's report justified everything that Gary Webb had put in that book or had published in that Sacramento newspaper. I forget the title. What was it? Sacramento News? San Jose Mercury News. That's what it was. San Jose Mercury News. And the Inspector General validated and verified all the facts that Gary Webb had exposed. How this drugs was being sold in Los Angeles by Mr. His last name was Blandon. First middle name was O'Neill, and Meneses. But they used local gang members to get the drugs into South Central Los Angeles and then all across the nation. That thing spread like wildfire. Freeway Ricky Ross says he was making like $3 million. One time he made $3 million in one day. So that show you that drugs was profitable, and it paid because it was enough to finance the continuation of that Contra War off the books with no government U.S. money coming in. But Air America was still flying the weapons in and flying the drugs out. And yes, the U.S. hands are bloody. They're complicit in the drug trade. And which one should not look askance, because remember, the original mission of drugs was to put the drugs in the black communities or in the poor communities and keep it away from the white folks and their communities. But we found, but white folks was coming down to South Central to buy drugs. All right, so they dig one ditch, but you better dig two, because the one you dig for me really might be for you. And so when Nixon declared the war on drugs, that was a misnomer. And there was no war on drugs. There was a war on Negroes, but no war on drugs. But enough of that. I'm going to close out talking about President Traore, Ibrahim Traore is his name, over Burkina Faso. He's finally doing what the leaders of those other countries will not do. Remember, Africa was colonized, and that means that the European powers invaded Africa and took the resources of Africa, and they would set up little puppet regimes, administrations, to enable them to plunder the resources more freely, because hey, the United States or Britain or France or Belgium or Portugal or Spain is going to get me, set me up as the president. All right, Nathaniel, now you sign this document. Now we're going to go over here and take all of the gold, and these gold mines are now ours. Well, finally they got a leader in Burkina Faso who said that's enough is enough and too much stinks. And so we're going to look out for the people. And so he has nationalized the gold mines. And let's see, he approved the construction of Burkina Faso's first refinery to process gold domestically. He has halted the export of raw gold to Europe. And he has suspended the permits to export small-scale private gold production to combat the illicit trade. He has also renegotiated the mining contracts with foreign corporations, demanding a greater percentage of whatever is extracted, and favoring local participation, developing skills needed for a complete or a complex, prosperous domestic economy. All this is what Ibrahim Traore is attempting to do. And you know, as I said on last week, Patrice Lumumba of the Congo was assassinated because he was trying to look out for his people. Last week I got the date wrong. In 1987, Thomas Sankara, who was the president of this same country, Burkina Faso, gave a speech in Addis Ababa, which is in Ethiopia, in which he said, if all of our countries don't agree that we're not going to pay this debt anymore, because if we pay the debt, we're going to die. But if we don't pay the debt, the powers that be are not going to die. But he said, if y'all don't agree, if we don't all agree, if I have to do this by myself, I won't be here next year. And sure enough, he was assassinated that same year, 1987. But the boy was on the right track, and hats off to him. Thomas Sankara I'm talking about. And so now he was the one that renamed the country Burkina Faso, because it had been previously named by the colonial powers Haute-Volta, which there was a river called the Volta River there in Burkina Faso, and the colonialists had named this city for that river. I had some notes here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them. Some points that Mr. Sankara, who was assassinated, President Sankara, who was the former president of Burkina Faso. Here it is. Okay, about that debt. Neocolonialism, in which colonizers transformed themselves into technical assistants, cleverly managed reconquest of Africa, aims to subjugate its growth through foreign rule. In other words, you owe debt, you're not free. Make Africa a financial slave. That's what a true slave is. That's what the slave trade was all about. It was all about money, all about finances. I work you to death, and I make a lot of money, and I ain't got to pay you. And so that's another word for chattel slavery. It was financial slavery, because we were making money for these slave masters here in America and nothing for ourselves. All right. Make Africa a financial slave, true slave, of the former colonizers who had been treacherous enough to put money in our countries with obligations for us to repay. And now we're going to find out that 60% of the African Union's funding comes from outside Africa. Guess who? Why, the European powers, France, and the United States. The African Union acts as the gatekeeper for foreign governments. And back up here, another lady who was a commentator on this says that if the African Union is failing President Traore, the African Union acts like a referee for the West. That's not just the United States, that's the Western powers. That includes France, England, all of the UK, because a lot of the artifacts from Benin and other African countries are not in those African countries. They've been translated, transported to England or to France. You go to England, you see a whole lot of artifacts from the continent of Africa. Over in where? Britain. Over in France. But I digress. This lady said, in relation to the 54 countries, that elections without sovereignty is theater, and democracy without security is an illusion. Well, you can understand that. We have the illusion of democracy here in the United States. But you can see behind the Iron Curtain that the forces that are at work, which Paul called principalities, powers, the rulers of darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places, they have gerrymandered and they have maneuvered through political stratagems so that a lot of people's votes don't count. And that is not a democracy. And as the late Thurgood Marshall pointed out, at the inception of this country, there was no democracy. The Negro, the black and the slave certainly wasn't free. The white woman wasn't free. The Indian wasn't free. So it was for landed white men to create the illusion of a democracy. And so we have applaud President Ibrahim Traore, and even though the United States AFRICOM commander, General, what is his name, Michael Langley, is breathing out threatenings and cruelties and trying to paint 5 minutes? All right. Trying to paint Traore as a dictator. whenever they get ready to get rid of it, they always paint the person as a dictator. That's how they did Nkrumah. That's how they did Patrice Lumumba. That's how they did Thomas Sankara. And that's how they did Muammar Gaddafi. And that is what the playbook calls for. Reduce the president to an object and then get rid of the object. That's what's happening. That's what they're getting ready to do. But we're praying for President Ibrahim Traore that he may survive all of these stratagems. And the people all over the continent of Africa are rallying to Traore, and they're putting pressure on their own political leaders who have compromised with the West to look out for the how did George Bush put it, the interests of the West, but not the interests of their people. See, I can be in office, but I might be looking out for somebody else, and I'm not over here looking out for you. And that's what you have to be on your guard about. Is the person that you elected looking out for you, or are they looking out for somebody else? That's why the people in Chicago got mad with the mayor of Chicago, because for years they had been trying to get the mayor, before him even, to have more money for the homeless there in the city of Chicago. But he finds money for the immigrants, get them up in fine hotels and get them food stamps and all of that, but he can't find nothing for the citizens of Chicago. You know, if I'm your mayor, I'm supposed to look out for you. Hey, just saying. And so the people have a right to rise up and kick back. Finally, I want to say that the Catholic Church has a new pope now. His name is John Prevost. He calls himself Pope 14, Pope Francis the 14th. And this Pope Francis the 14th comes from the south side of Chicago. And some say that his family was passing, and that he's really not white. That's what they say. That his family from the south side of Chicago, where he was born. Now, how you going to be born in south side of Chicago and you white? You hear what I'm saying? but that his mother was black and that he was passing. Anyway, he's the new pope now. You may have your first black pope and don't know it. But be that as it may, he's against J.D. Vance, who is the Vice President of the United States, and I'm down with that. And so I wish him well. Stay tuned, because they're gonna find out. They're not gonna let that go. They're gonna dig all in this pope's background, and if he got a black mama in there anywhere, yeah, they're gonna make him, fess up. Yes, indeed. Amen. But that's the new pope, and as I always say, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, there ain't no sense of you messing around, losing your youth and young days. If you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my considered advice and don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We're out of here. Love you. Take it easy.